If you're exhausted, burnout, or secretly wondering why success doesn't feel good to you anymore, this conversation is for you. As we head to 2026, something big is shifting. People are redefining success, and rest is becoming non negotiable. Now, Jackie B. Grice helps with people align their lives through purpose, wellness, and restorative rest. And I'm so glad to have you on the show. You're amazing, and I'm really excited to just like jump right into the conversation. So I want to ask you, why are so many people hitting a wall right now, even when they've done everything right?
Yeah, thank you, Stacy. I'm so excited to be here. I, I think we're in this culture where everything is moving so fast.
Hmm.
And there's that fear of missing out, that if I'm not doing this, if I'm not doing that, then I'm somehow left behind. In the age of AI and I mean things changing so rapidly, we feel like if we take a moment to breathe, we've
Yeah.
missed we've just missed out. So I think it's just the culture we live in. I think it's social media, what we see, what success looks like. It's constantly doing one thing or the other.
Yeah,
And I think we've all bought into that hype that that's what we have to do.
I agree. Now, why is hustle culture starting to collapse, especially for women?
I believe that we found out it doesn't work. And there's this great book out called The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
And I think that, we realize that the the stamina, the energy that it takes to continue that,
Mhm.
um, it's just not sustainable. It
Right.
isn't healthy. And we don't show up as our best selves, to be honest. We just don't, we're more emotional
Hmm.
beings. And when you marry emotions with stress and our bodies being tired, that's never a good mixture. And I think we're finally realizing this hustle just doesn't work.
Yeah,
Not for us, not for
I
women.
agree. Yeah, totally. Now, how is burnout showing up differently now than it ever has, like, compared to a few years ago?
Yeah, I really feel like burnout is showing up in the way we lead as women. I think it shows up in our families, how we interact with our children.
Yeah.
But it really is showing up in our bodies. I think we as women are experiencing these that we've never experienced before,
Right.
earlier than, say later in life when they say, oh, these are when things start to sort of, show signs of, fatigue and those types of things. I think
Yeah.
we're seeing those show up a lot earlier in life. And yeah, I think that's definitely a sign that, wait a minute, the headaches and just the feelings of stress, and again, how we interact with people and being maybe short fused or irritable. We're
Yeah.
we're seeing those things show up a lot sooner than we used to.
Right. I
Yeah.
agree. Why doesn't rest feel safe or productive for so many people?
Because culture, makes us feel guilty.
Yeah.
And I think about women, like I know my husband, he can, after a long day, he can lay on the couch, he can watch TV, and it sort of seems normal, right? It's like, okay, he's tired, he's been up all day.
Yeah.
Where we can do the same thing, actually be up all day and at night, and we
Mhm.
feel like if we take a nap, if we take a breath, if we
Yeah.
just sit down and do absolutely nothing,
Mhm.
then we feel guilty for that. We feel like we need to be doing something, whether it's with our kids, for our spouse, for our business.
Yeah.
We just feel guilty for
Right.
doing what our body is actually saying we need to do.
Exactly. Now, you say in 2026, it will be the year of radical rest. What exactly is changing and how people define success?
I think, radical rest means just that. We have to take rest and just grab a hold of it. And I think we understand that pausing, resting, listening, meditating, those things help us make better decisions.
Yeah.
Again, showing up differently. I can't think of how many times I've made decisions out of just feeling like I had to make a quick decision. And
Yeah.
and we learn that as an entrepreneur, to make quick, decisive decisions. But a lot of times when we do that from a place of rush and not
Hmm.
rest,
Yeah.
we after making the decision, we sit back and we say, wow, I wish I had looked at that differently. I wish I had
Yeah.
just taken the time to really think about that decision.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's the reason that I feel we have to be radical about resting. And
Hmm.
and it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to lay around and do that, but I really make decisions from a measured place. And I don't have to buy into this fact that if I don't make these quick, decisive decisions, that somehow, you know, not winning as this entrepreneur or this woman, this superwoman that we've sort of had to put the cape on, but it's okay to take the cape off.
Now, what does radical rest really mean, and what doesn't it mean?
Yeah, radical rest means to simply pause, to simply say it is okay for me to take time to really look at my life, look at decisions, to make a choice. It's really about making a choice
Hmm.
to just be okay with resting. That if I feel the need to sit, to take a nap, to
Right.
then I can do it without guilt.
Makes sense.
And, to me, that's what it means is to really, really look at all aspects of your life and see how you can incorporate rest
Hmm.
into every single aspect of your life. And, what it doesn't mean again is it just doesn't mean that you're just laying around endlessly, that you're taking the cell phone and just, as they say, dead scrolling or just, looking at all this stuff on social media, because a lot of times we're not resting our mind when we do that. We're looking at stuff that we then compare ourselves to. We're looking at all the political stuff that's happening. We're scrolling, but it's not disengaging from the fast pace of the world. So that's
Exactly.
what it's not, you know. Yeah.
I agree. Now, what's one small way someone can start practicing restorative rest without quitting their life or their career?
Yeah. One way that I really believe in is just taking time to get silent,
Mm.
just taking time to cut the noise, shut the noise off, you know, and asking yourself a simple question, what do I need to uh, refill my energy tank? Sometimes if there's a decision that I need to make, I may ask myself, what is it that I need to see that I don't see? What perspective? And just get quiet, be silent, and sit in that moment. And it's so crazy that people often say to me, like being silent is so foreign to them. It's like, okay, I'm not talking. I'm just, yeah, it's just freeing your mind from any preconceived notions or thoughts and just sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, and I like to do the prompt where you ask a question and then you just sit and you listen
Hmm.
for an answer and
Right.
not, yeah, yes.
I like that too. I like that too. Like, how are some of the ways that you work on yourself and to when it comes to becoming silent?
Yeah, I actually set no less than 30 minutes a day
Hmm.
where I just take 30 minutes and I go into complete silence. I put away the phone, I do all the things, and I usually try to really incorporate that with something that I need, something that and when I say I need, I don't mean like, okay, give me ways to make more money or those types of things.
Yeah, yeah,
But what does my body need? What is my body telling me?
yeah,
And yeah, so I try to do that at least 30 minutes every day. I tell people, start off with 10 or 15 minutes because we'd be surprised that it's very difficult to just sit with yourself. So I
yeah.
try to do that. I incorporate meditation with it. And sometimes I put soft meditative music on, worship music, all those types of things. And then I also equip myself with a journal
Yeah.
just to if something comes to mind, I can write it down because often thoughts will come to you and we'll forget them. So I try to incorporate all of that when I take those moments of
Right.
just resting and listening.
I like that. Now,
Yeah.
why are more people choosing to rest focused travel and experience instead of just constant doing, doing, doing?
I think that we've realized that that isn't productive. Like we were taught to be productive, you have to
Yeah.
continuously go, go. And, even with travel, oftentimes, and I don't know how many of your listeners or your audience have gone on a vacation, but then they
Mhm.
need a vacation from the vacation. It's like you're more worn out than you were before you left.
Yeah.
And I think, when I think of travel, yeah, you're going to have those trips and vacations where it is going to be you're going and you're doing all the things. But just to decide to vacation, to unplug,
Right.
to yeah, to rest.
I love that. Now, what should workplaces and brands understand about the shift toward rest and well-being?
People show up so much better. People show up with less weight. They
Mhm.
show up more present.
Yeah.
They just show up as better because I train leaders, they
Yeah.
show up differently and they lead their themselves and their organizations from a different place than they
Yeah.
do often when it's this constant steady pace of grind and hustle.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
agree. Now let's go back to the journaling. How does journaling help you so much?
Because, and let me say this, I wasn't, people had always talked about journaling, and I
Mhm.
hadn't really ever took the time to do that. It's crazy, I'd do one day and then the next time I'd look back and I'm like, wow, it's been a whole month since I wrote anything in my journal. So I went on I had a sabbatical we did to Costa Rica. I took a group of women and I came back and I decided to journal, just download all the things that I heard and I saw. And I started to see the manifestation of what I was journaling, like actually happen in my life. And I just, from that point, I became an avid journaler and I incorporate pictures. So it's almost like a vision journal. So
Right,
in my journal, there are pictures, there are things that I want to accomplish. There are, different things the way that I want to show up. And
right.
it just has become a habit because it's worked. So I incorporate that.
What major changes have you seen in your life since you've been able to kind of separate yourself in silence and, just from the chaos of the world and everything going around you, being able to pull yourself out of there and just find a safe place where you could just have your silence, have your peace, and be able to block out the rest of the world for a short period of time and really reconnect with yourself?
Absolutely. I show up as a better person, as a
Mhm.
better leader, as a better wife, and as a better mother. I mean, I get very passionate about that because I'm able to sit back and look at, instead of, I would always say, oh gosh, people are just nowadays people are just doing the most. It's crazy, it's whatever, but it gives me time to really reflect on
Yeah,
where I am and how I see other people.
right.
And looking at people it's definitely helped me be more empathetic and
Hmm.
realize that I was in this pace of doing the same thing, of just rushing, hustling, showing up, which doesn't help when statistics show that people are dealing more with mental health issues, more, you know, just it's social media is a great thing, but it's also opened the door to more things that people deal with. And
Yeah,
it really has helped me understand people
right.
from a different perspective.
It's like it's giving you a new pair of eyes to see things in a
Oh,
different light.
that's so good. Absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
I love that. Now, if someone listens to this and feels permission to slow down for the first time, what do you want them to remember?
To to not feel guilty, to not feel guilty, and that your body needs it. It whether you're a spiritual person listening or not, rest was always part of what we should be incorporating in our life.
Yes.
But we entered this phase of this hustle culture. Like there's this podcast that was called Sleep is for Suckers. And, it's like, so it's to remember that that is a natural part of us, of our life as humans, as beings. And we have choked that part out
Yeah.
and it hasn't, and we're now seeing the effects of that. So to
Hmm.
just remember that it's not countercultural, it should be a normal part of our routine to
Yeah.
do that.
100%. Oh, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree so much. Now, if someone, after the people, finish listening to this podcast, what are three things that you want them to walk away to remember with also? Three takeaways.
Three takeaways. So the first thing would be do not feel guilty for taking the time to rest. You cannot feel guilty because that's probably number one. We feel guilty. We feel like we should always be going. The other thing is it's okay to say no.
Hmm.
It's okay not to be the super parent and the one that has to, I believe in putting children and having your child in a lot of activities. But it's okay if you don't do all of that.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're not any less of a mother or a father to just, it's okay.
Yeah.
And I would say, the third thing is to understand
Yeah.
that your body will thank you for it, that it is a healthy part of living to just take a break and to rest. Our minds need it. And, the days, we look at statistics of dementia and Alzheimer's, and I'm not at all like a, you know, medically speaking, and don't go by, I'm not an expert,
Right.
but there was a time when we slowed down,
Yeah.
and that sometimes it's okay just to refresh and to renew your mind.
Yeah.
And I would just say, just for your body, just for your health, take a pause.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, you have different services that you offer, and you also have a retreat that you have planned that's coming up soon. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so I am taking a group of women to the Salamander Hotel that is in Middleburg, Virginia. It's about 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C., and
Hmm.
one of the busiest cities. It's so much going on there, but it is right on the outskirts in the mountains. It's wine and horse country. And we are going to the Salamander Resort from the 15th of February to the 17th. And we are just going to relax, renew, rejuvenate, get restored, take some time to jump into this radical rest that I've been talking about. And
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it. And we had a survey we sent out to all the women that's attending. And, the biggest thing is that people are tired. They're like a mentally tired, stressed. So I really feel like this retreat answers the call, especially to leaders and women and to entrepreneurs. And you have children, or you run a business, and you do all the things. We
Yeah.
rarely take the time to just think about ourselves. And we're doing it right after Valentine's Day because I really wanted people to do this for themselves. This is a gift of love for
Hmm.
yourself. We
Right.
rarely do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I love it. Now, tell us a little about the services you provide.
Okay, so I do coaching. I do, I do mindset. We work on purpose, but we really work on soul-centered leadership and entrepreneurship. So
Mhm.
I do that. I help with business strategy because a lot of times we're trying to, we've been doing, like, whether it's our business that we've been doing for a long time, or the version of us that we've just, when I ask people, like, who are you? And they
Yeah.
usually say, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a leader, I'm a mother, whatever.
Yeah.
But really helping women just find, and not just women, men, because I do have a few men that I coach, so I can't just say just women, but really finding out who I am, what my true purpose and passion is. Because I
Hmm.
think it is such a tragedy to leave this world and not do what you really had a passion to do. So I help people figure out a way to do that, and if they want to make an income with that, or if they want to make a pivot with that, I really help them and coach them through that transition.
I love that. Now, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on most platforms, on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram under Jackie B. Grice.
Mhm.
You can go to my website. launching. Well, actually, you can go to launchingdeeper.com or you can go to Jackie B. Grice. But I
Hmm.
would love for you guys to follow me, your listeners, on Instagram because that's where we post a lot of things, and that's
Yeah.
under Jackie B. Grice. So,
I,
yeah.
I love it. Well, this has been amazing. And this conversation really reframes success not as constant output, but as an alignment and vitality. And I really think, the information that you share today, your wisdom, your strategies, the tools, and just the concept of pulling ourselves out of this chaotic world and really making the effort to give us time, and I think it's even good sometimes if we do it if we could just pull ourselves out of the world for just 10-15 minutes a day, and just if you don't have time to do it more, just give yourself a little bit of time, and just give yourself that silence that you were talking about, and just getting away from the cell, getting away from all the technologies, getting away from the rest of the world, and really getting to know yourself and understanding who you are. And I love the fact that you brought up the journaling, because I think journaling is so powerful. And sometimes, you could be sitting there, and then all of a sudden you could be in silence, and all of a sudden a gush of thoughts come flowing through your head, and you start writing those down, and really the light bulb goes off, and you really realize things that you never realized before. And it just happens. It just happens. We connect with ourselves when we give ourselves that time to renew, that time to really understand who we are, because I think we get sometimes so caught up in the world that we could forget who we are and what our real purpose in life is. And it's not always about the money or the work or taking care of others. Who are you? What's your purpose? Why do I love myself? What am I here for? And just understanding, and being able to really understand your body and the messages it gives us, because it's constantly talking to us. I don't think we give it enough of time to really spend with ourselves to understand what our body is telling us. And I think you made that very clear today. And you really showed the importance of resetting yourself, because I think it's important every day we should reset ourselves. Because I notice if I don't reset myself every day, I feel it. I really do feel it. And I think today's podcast was wonderful. I think you're wonderful. And I'm really glad you're doing what you're doing. And I hope you'll be back and we can talk more in depth about a lot of the topics that you touched briefly on today, especially burnout. I'd love to go more in depth about that with you, because that's a topic so many people suffer from. And that's part of the reset program, that, getting out of that burnout and really resetting yourself, and then just staying on a positive pathway, so I'd love to have you back on the show, and you're wonderful. And I thank you so much, Jackie, for being here and sharing yourself with everybody.
Thank you so much, Stacy. And I look forward to us doing this again and going even deeper.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate you, and you have a great day.
Thank you. You all too.